or Professor Stewart, depending on how you know me. Now, if I could just fix it over here on my YouTube, I'd be straight. I'd like for that. I'd like for my YouTube to go to pop. I really would. And so, cause I got something to say. I got something to say. And so I'm gonna make sure the YouTube pop right here. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Just bear with me. Get some popcorn, cause this is gonna help somebody. Healing. I think the spirit is like I think I'm stalling because I'm about to be so transparent about dealing from trauma. Okay, traumatic, traumatic experiences. Um, the homies asked me to go to um homecoming all the time, and I haven't been. I haven't been to my undergrad homecoming. I haven't been to Southern University Baton Rouge in a lot of years since I've left. I haven't been there, and one of the reasons I haven't been is simply because there's just been too much trauma. There's been too much trauma down there in Baton Rouge, and I my camera's not on. That's what's happening. You all can hear me, but my camera's not on YouTube. Choose a broadcast type for your stream. Now it's public, but customized. Why can't my camera? My camera won't cut on YouTube. So unfortunately, YouTube. I'm just gonna say the audio. I'm gonna say the audio because I don't understand why the camera is not popping on over here. But people want to know. Like my guys have asked me, like, man, why you don't go to homecoming? So let me tell you, I'm born and raised right here in Chicago on the South Side, and I'm from a two-parent household. Okay, I can't even claim to be like from the streets or something like that. I'm not. I mean, I'm not that dude. I'm not that dude. I am the dude that is, I'm mental. I think with my brain, right? I'm not. I don't even like really doing a lot of dirty work. So, pretty cool guy, very popular in high school, whatever the case may be. And when I went away to college, one of the reasons I decided to go away to Louisiana is because I wanted to meet different people. I wanted some different culture. So anyway, my roommate was from a small town in Louisiana, and I went home with him one weekend, and it was the first time in my life I'd ever experienced someone being shot. But that's not it. It's really the trauma was I went home. It was very homely, southern, everything that you imagine from this southern lifestyle. I went home to parents, breakfast in the morning, dinner, all the things are good. But we go out to this club one night, and I hear what sounds like a balloon pop, only to realize that it wasn't a balloon pop. Somebody had shot a gun. And I knew it wasn't a balloon pop because the young lady who was standing right next to me, like on my right hand side, she dropped down and I could see her brains oozing out of the side of her head. And I froze. And then I hear a couple of more gunshots. I now know they gunshots. I hear a couple of more, and now know that I see that somebody else has been shot in the hand, and people are yelling and screaming, and all I'm doing is I'm standing there. Like people are literally telling me to go. Like you gotta go. Like we gotta get out of here. And I'm like, okay. And so I do. We leave. So that was one traumatic experience. And let me tell you, I never dealt with it. Never, ever dealt with it. I can't tell you the young lady's name. I can't tell you anything about the event. And my roommate has also since passed away since those college days. So that's one reason why I've never been down to Southern University, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And not only that, but there was also an experience where I was, and I'm not, well, I've talked about it, but I was kidnapped once. It's like, man, what you got to do to get kidnapped? Well, I didn't do anything except I didn't snitch. But one of my guys had, I didn't have to snitch. I didn't snitch. I didn't have to say nothing. But in order to get what they were looking for from one of my people, one of my guys at the time, you know, a group of guys decided that they were going to take me as kind of ransom, if you will. And so I experienced that. There was no physical harm done. I had absolutely no scratches. There was no physical altercation other than being forced by guns and bats and chains and knives or whatever to get into the back of this pickup truck. So that's another very traumatic experience. And so I carried those youthful traumatic experiences into my adulthood. And again, never dealt with that. Now, I realized recently, it was just brought to my attention, is very, very extremely recently, like super, super recently, that over the years I kind of lost my sense of humor. And I could talk about that a little bit. In high school, I was class clown. And I realized right after that that was not a designation that I wanted to have. I did not want to be associated as being the class clown. I ain't no clown. You know what I'm saying? So I had a sense of humor, and I've always had a sense of humor. But recently, as I started to get closer to God and deal with some other trauma, and that I'm going to talk about right here, right now, I realized that sense of humor thing is just changing. It's just super changing. So let me talk about the adulthood trauma and when I started to lose my sense of humor. And I started losing my sense of humor in 2017. And I'll tell you specifically the things that occurred in 2017 that kind of took me into losing my sense of humor. In 2017, my divorce was finalized. Shortly thereafter, I had a car that was repossessed. Shortly thereafter that, my father passed away. And shortly thereafter that, my business went under. And then I had to make a decision and made a decision to go back to work after being an entrepreneur for so long. And so I went back into the classroom as a Chicago public school teacher, which all of those things, as far as I'm concerned, are very, very traumatic experiences. So no matter how together I attempted to be, and obviously I'm sure that I didn't do it well, these are some uncomfortable, life-altering, traumatic experiences that I had to deal with. So dealing with divorce and just the stigma associated with divorce carries its weight, right? And so, period. And that's really all that needs to be said about that. So, I didn't really deal with that, like healing from that. I celebrated that a bit, and I kind of celebrated in ways that probably could have been celebrated a little differently. And then right after that, my car was repossessed. A Buick Chrysler 300. And it was repossessed. It was repossessed at a very inconvenient time. I guess that's when repossessions happen, at the most inconvenient times. But I felt like my what's the word I'm looking for? My image I think that that car played into my image a little bit, and my ego was bruised. And that's fine. So that was humbling. But I still, walked around with broad shoulders. And then right after that, my father got sick, and you know, right after he got sick, a month later he passed away. So we're talking about March 2017 divorce, July 2017 car repossessed, July 2017 father falls ill to brain cancer, September 2017 father passes away, September 2017 I decide to go back into, let me back up. August of 2017, business folds. September 2017, father passes away. September 2017, go back into the classroom and be a teacher. And so here it is, 2023. So we're 6 years later. And uncovering and dealing with some of these traumas. And then there's an even deeper trauma, another trauma that set in 2021, that most parents don't ever want to experience. Most people should never want to experience when someone accuses them of something that they didn't do, let alone it's from a loved one, by a loved one. And that in itself holds various traumas as well. But what I really want to talk about is dealing with and overcoming those traumas. There was a time where I would have a trauma and I would reach out to a human being, another person, to vent and to talk about the events of the trauma. And I have been learning over the last couple of years what it really means to walk in faith and put your burdens at the feet of God. I also talked early in this this live a little bit about the fact that I lost my sense of humor over the years. And I think some of that came from because I've always, in my entire life, used humor as a healing mechanism, but deeper than that, use humor as a method of escapism, escaping the realities of what's going on. And I know firsthand and for a fact that when you stay in and deal with the realities of life, that those realities tend to weigh heavy. And for me, those realities turned into everything ain't as funny as it used to be, especially when that humor is at the expense of someone else's deficiencies, someone else's shortcomings. I still like to laugh. I love to laugh, and I love to have fun, but not at the expense of someone close to me, or the mistakes of someone close to me, or the deficiencies in someone close to me. And I learned that in that sense of humor, most of it was laughing at someone else and their shortcomings. And that ain't funny necessarily to me. And I know people get off on that a lot. That's just not what it is for me today, right? I like to laugh. I have a great sense of humor, but just not at the expense of other people. So how do you deal with and heal with these traumas? And I only have a real short one answer. It is the practice of realizing that another human can't help you. Yes, it feels good to be able to talk to a professional that can confirm some things for you and give you some actionable items, right? You can't heal. That's right. You can't heal what you don't reveal. But the only most important person or being or entity for me is giving it to God. So these conversations I now give to God. And they sound something like this: God, give me the strength to deal with what you are walking with me through. Because I know God has never ever left me, and God will never leave me. And so I pray for the strength to go through the fire. I pray for the strength to walk through the parted Red Sea. I pray for the strength to wear the armor that is needed to not let any weapon form against me prosper. And I'm finding and continue to find that the more I give it to my Father, who I call God, the more I give it to Jesus Christ, the easier things become, right? And it's almost like having a child. And when you tell your child to do something, or when you suggest to your child that they move a certain way, generally speaking, your intention is to protect them. And I have a father over my mother and father, and that is God. And God protects me. And God is constantly sometimes putting roadblocks in my path, in my plan, because his plan is better than my plan, right? I say sometimes, I have a plan, but God has a plan for my plan. Like, I have a plan, but God has a plan for my plan. And now those plans for my plans sometimes show up as roadblocks or obstacles. Like earlier, I had a Zoom meeting to do, and I attempted to do it virtually, but it didn't work out. Now, I'm a pretty tech savvy guy. I'm live on YouTube, I'm live here on Instagram, and I'm live here on Facebook, all at the same time, right? I'm working it out as best as I can today. But for whatever reason, earlier, the technology didn't work right. And I have come to believe that it wasn't meant for me to deliver it in that manner, because that ain't the best manner or display that workshop should have been delivered in. That's what I've come to realization, and only because I recognize, like, it's nothing wrong that I'm simply being protected. Zay, I think I heard you say this the other day. I think it was you. It's like, when things don't go according to my plan, all I can say is thank you for the protection. Thank you for protecting me, right? And so, dealing with and overcoming traumatic experiences, first of all, number one, takes time. So give yourself some grace to deal with the trauma. And the trauma is that, in the most medical sense, it's like your body, physically or spiritually or emotionally, has been disrupted in some capacity, right? And so if I've taken a jab from life, right, like a repossession or a death of a parent, and those things kind of move me physically, spiritually, first of all, I have to realize that I've been injured in some capacity, and that I need to heal from that injury. But if I've never broken a bone, but I've sprained an ankle extremely bad, and it's taken me months for that ankle to heal. I know some of you may have dealt with broken bones or other injuries, right? And when you recover, it just takes time to heal. The same thing with traumatic experiences. Like, I understand that you have to, first of all, accept the fact that you went through a traumatic experience, and that you are now altered in some capacity, and you need some time to adjust to the new state in which you're in, first overcoming the pain and the hurt of it. And a lot of us black men, it's not always acceptable to sit in the fact that you are hurt about anything. Hurt that you would have a fight with a friend, or hurt that someone would quote unquote do you wrong, or hurt that you didn't get a chance to say the proper things to that loved one before they left you, or hurt that someone has left you, or the hurt that you've had to leave someone. Like, these are those traumas, right, that hurt us as black men, that we don't always get a chance to acknowledge and admit to, right? And so we need to, with ourselves, it's like no other human can give you this, guys, ladies and gentlemen. No other human can give you this. These are the things that you have to take to your father, not your earthly father, your spiritual father, God, and say to God, I know and trust that you always have my best benefit at heart. I know this, God, and I trust you. Like, we don't even trust our earthly parents to this degree. We criticize. As much as we love our earthly parents, we often criticize them and dismiss their guidance. But ain't no dismissing the guidance in God. There is no dismissing the guidance in God. We have to listen and pay attention to that still small voice that's inside of us, trusting that it's the right thing to do. Now, it may not always feel right, but when you do right, you know it's right. Like, I heard someone say yesterday, like, it ain't about being right to anybody else. It's about being right and doing right because the heart feels better, because the heart knows that it's right. And that's where we get this freely and abundantly expression from. The freeness and abundance of all that God has to offer. And so how do you deal with and overcome trauma? The first step is in acknowledging it. Acknowledging it, and give yourself time to embrace it and begin the process of understanding it. Okay? Then for me, it's just like letting the process be the process. Trust the process. Well, what process? Trust that although sometimes it may feel like things ain't working out, it may feel like this ain't how you planned it to be, it may feel like everything is down. That's not the reality. That ain't the truth. The truth is that God is constantly available to us to pull us up into our greater selves. But if we're in a space of constantly dismissing what's good for us, we could sometimes dismiss what's God for us. We can sometimes dismiss what God has for us. Like, don't treat God like you treat your parents. And I'm talking to my believers. Obviously, I'm not talking to people who don't believe in God. So if anybody is here in my, oh, you talking about God, like God. Look, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people who believe in God, Allah, right? And those are really the only two, Yahweh, there's only a few names that I can, but God, right? Man, you got to know that God is always available for our greatest good. Hey, power, you got to know that God is always here for our greater good. And power, I'm still here in my home. All is well because of what I'm talking about today, like giving it to God. Yes, our natural inclination is to want to vent about the thing that is happening. That's our natural That's our natural inclination. What's up, Keon? What's up, y'all? What's up, Saint Sabine in the building? I don't know what's going on with the audio, but I don't know what's going on with the video on YouTube, but I'm talking about appreciating your relationship with God and understanding how to deal with and overcome some of these traumas. And I'm saying it's not, hey, Kristen, it's not about venting to someone else so they can hear and understand your position. Dealing with the traumas of life is really about taking it to God and having the strength to walk in faith. That knowingness that God is always, always, always working for your greatest benefit. You got to get to a point where you're not even questioning it. It's not about, well, if God, well, if God, no, it's no longer an if God. It's a I know God. I know what God has for me. And don't worry about the past, yo. Don't worry about the past. The past can't be changed. It's a wrap for the past. The thing happened. The trauma happened. It happened. So now what? And the now what is dealing with it and standing in who you are being created to be according to God's will for your life. This is how we deal with and heal from traumatic experiences. And I've had my share. And my trauma, me sharing my trauma at the beginning of this video with you is not about my trauma is more traumatic than your trauma or you don't have. It's not about that. I'm just being vulnerable, letting you know that despite what you may see sometimes, just know that everybody has their own trauma. Everybody has their own stuff to deal with. Everybody carries around their bucket of mess. And the goal is to keep your bucket of mess in your bucket and don't get your mess on my mess, right? But sometimes we feel like that's how we can, I got to call somebody, I got to talk to somebody, call God. Talk to God. Trust the process. And it's not just prayer. It's not just prayer, but it is. It may sound cliche-ish. It's crazy, but becoming familiar with the word, like becoming familiar with the Bible, understanding the stories of the Bible and how God moves. And you'll find, I have found, and you'll find that like when God says that he promises to keep his word, that's exactly what he means. That's exactly what he does. He promises to keep his word. And it is conditional. If you call upon me, if you obey my commandments, if you follow my guidance, if you do as I have laid it out for you to do, if you follow these rules, I mean, that's just what it is. You know, if you follow these rules, you will reap all the benefits. But God is also so amazing in the sense, it's like, and if you don't, if you fall off, so long as you come back to me, repent, and ask for forgiveness, and you mean it in your heart, I'll give it to you. That's God saying, and that's my word. And it is his word, right? Yes, I've changed over the years. I ain't the same person I used to be. Thank God. Thank God. And look, I hope that in me elevating as a man, as a black man, and being vulnerable and sharing and sharing what works for me, I hope that it elevates you. And if that happens, then we gotta give the praise to God. We have to give the glory to God. This is how we deal with and heal from traumatic experiences, right? This is how we do it. So recognize that you've been through a traumatic experience. Don't bury it. It's not going to go away. It's going to be there in your deepest thoughts when you're by yourself. 2, give yourself time to heal from that traumatic. Like, once you acknowledge it, you don't bury it, it's not going to go away right away. It may take 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, 60 years. But give yourself that time to deal with the heal. And then 3rd, don't worry about calling another human being to vent to them and tell them so they can understand your side of the story so you can feel like you were right. Be true and authentic and give it to God. I'm telling you, this give it to God part is something that I learned recently within the last year. Just within the last year. This ain't I ain't really been on it like that. So I hope that you found something in this message that elevates you and helps you. I'm just listening to God, working to be as obedient as I can every single day, and making sure that it is not my ego, that it is God that's moving me. That's the work. So I pray that you have an amazing day. Find a reason to laugh, but trust God. He is your father. He is your mother. Trust God, right? That's your parent. And honor that, right? And I promise you, you'll be able to deal with and heal from some of your own traumatic experiences like you never imagined in a million years. You already know what it is. Until next time.